Hello, welcome back to my channel. My name is George, and today I want to talk about religion in the Castlevania Nocturne series. So yeah, um, in the series, Christianity it is everywhere. Everything like crosses, churches, chants, prophecy, and things like that. But it's usually uh, but it has a mask, and it it, it most of the time it sides with with evil, and this time around it sides with Elizabeth Bathory. Um, there are two characters who kind of misuse faith. The first person is Drota, who used to be a Sekhmet devotee. Um, she was such a devoted. She was such a she was such a involved devotee of Sekhmet to the point where her blind faith in a goddess convinced her to drink vampire blood because a random vampire in her stumbled across or well barged into her place where she usually worships and killed a bunch of people, and a- and yeah, obviously she basically convinced to be and desired and the desiring to be strong. She drinks vampire blood because this is what she kind of assumes. This is what she assumed. The other person is the abbot. The abbot, in his convinced, he desiring his the need to seal a pact with the vampire messiah, who wants to make a sacrifice, and the first person who he tries to sacrifice is Maria, and while he's doing it, he plans to chant a few or maybe like say a few lines from the Bible, uh, which is kind of like how Abraham did it in the Bible, but uh, but but unlike but in the book, uh, an angel changes uh, Abraham's son with a ram. Now the other person and another person who approaches it with who, who has a different approach is Inet. Um, Inet is a she had to deal with a lot with she had to deal with the fact that her mom was unalive by by the slaves by slave traders, people who uh, by slave uh, by people who practice slavery, and also they just suppressing her with uh, with with Christianity, this this religion that kind of that does not that that is somehow convinced that her people are uh, are are, are not are not necessarily worthy of uh, uh to be free or whatever. So yeah, she is. she is traumatized by the death of her mother, and she escapes, um and then she has and then when she is in sh- when she is in Europe trying to helping the others, uh, alongside the others trying to defeat Elizabeth. She basically gets this idea from the spirits that she has to go to the spirit world to connect with Sekhmet in order to stop Elizabeth, because Sekhmet's soul is divided in three, and Elizabeth is using um one of her three souls to cause disbalance and other stuff, and uh, through the use of her and by using her Haitian power, her Haitian voodoo powers, she connects. She goes to the spirit world, and she finally uh reaches Sekhmet, who is and says that uh Drota has betrayed her, and she has and she knows, and she says that Elizabeth is using one of her souls to cause this balance, and Elizabeth has to be stopped to bring that balance back. And Sekhmet is obviously hesitant. She is hesitant. She says that humans are fickle creatures and they do things on a whim, which is correct. Um, which is correct, and uh, and they switch between gods, which is true. Uh, uh, but sometimes people can be forced to change their religion because of people can be forced to change their religion because of colonialism. Uh, and by and finally but in by in it through sheer persistence shows that it it has to happen, and Sekhmet uh, agrees, but she has to inhabit her body to defeat Elizabeth, and by the time happens and by the end of the series it it happens. I also forgot to mention that Sekhmet calls Drota a disgusting creature. So yeah, um, one thing I have to, and this is good, a good example of religion being used not as not as a not as blind faith, but as inspiration and power. Um, uh, Overall, I want to say that the series does not necessarily the message of the series does not necessarily reject religion. It rejects bad religion. It where it's more about it's not about scripture, but more about uh more about justice and doing the right thing, and yeah, so yeah, um thank you so much for watching, uh and so yeah, um uh thank you so much for watching. Please like and subscribe, and I will see you in my next video. Goodbye. Hi, I'm back. I just want to add something more to the video. So yeah, um if we have to keep into account just her approach, in its approach to um how she went to Sekhmet. This is a good example of how a person should create a sort of like a relationship with their chosen deity, because as far as I'm concerned, as far as well, or as far as I don't know, someone's concerned is or whatever, or or I don't know, but from what I've noticed is that a lot of Christians um uh, are kind of treating their relationship with their deity in a way, kind of like it's kind of like this parental relationship. It's like this. It a lot of from what I've seen, it's just like it's pointless praying and it's pointless praying, and you don't even know if it's gonna yield any result or whatever. And oftentimes they will use their their deity to to kind of like instigate a lot of objectively no, they will use it they will use their deity to instigate obviously bad things, um but besides that, um it's almost like this child parental relationship where nothing really happens per se. And um and like uh and I also just don't really like how um that others don't necessarily really like how they will portray their god as whatever they want it to be, like eh, much like how this kind of this thing kind of like is exactly what the segment in the series was saying, that humans are very fickle, and the fact that Christians will just uh, will just use religion to justify like justify the worst. It's just like it's really it's really disturbing now with the now with more polytheistic uh religions like paganism, or 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 similar um belief systems like that. The if you really look into the mythologies of the many cultures around the world, especially the ones in the pre-colonial world, you will notice how a lot of the deities are they're their own people, they're their own creatures. They will decide whatever they want, and 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 they can very easily just um and one of the things that it's highlighted is with Sekhmet is that she brings plagues, but she is merciful, which kind of points to the this dualist dualistic nature, um dualistic nature of or rather maybe um or rather this is just uh, a simplified example of the multifacetedness that um pre-colonial deities have been portrayed in mythology. Obviously any of the many gods and goddesses can send curses and plagues upon anyone, and obviously they can spare the righteous if they see it. Um, and that's the thing with Sekhmet and other such deities that are not necessarily from a monotheistic faith system, from not from a monotheistic belief system. You have to create this sort of relationship with with the with the gods, and in a way you have to prove to them that that you have to show them that that you have the intentions, and you want to do this, much like what Enid did in the series. She by showing that by being determined to defeat Elizabeth, she convinced Sekhmet to possess her body in the physical world to so that Sekhmet's three souls can be united together. Um, and like I said in the previous clip, I also want to say that um the Castlevania series does not reject um the does not really reject uh does not really uh reject like spirituality. It rejects bad religions. It rejects it's kind of it's when it's not about just uh it's not about all the things that Christianity is, but it's more it's not about prophecies or or about a book, but it's more about just um and in the case of the series and the themes of liberation and resistance, because a lot of the events begin are set during the French Revolution. Um, it's about resistance, about um, uh, it, it gives you the power to determine your own the it gives you the power of self determination. Um, uh, eh, um, it, it liberates you from oppressive systems, much like what Inet had to endure when uh, when when she escaped from being from being a slave, essentially. Um, so yeah, so yeah. Thank you so much for watching. Uh, please like and please please like and subscribe, and I will see you in my next video. Goodbye.